Well, it's time to attack the great pumpkin. I just took him off the shelf in the living room on the side table, or he's been sitting since after Halloween. Still seems fine. First thing I did, I brought him in here and have washed the pumpkin off. The pumpkin was outside, the pumpkin was at the store. Goodness knows where the pumpkin was. So I used a lot of Dawn liquid and washed it off because I'm going to be cooking this in the crock pot and with the skin on, so I want to make sure that the outside skin is very, very clean. So I wanted to point something out here. The stem is about 2 inches long, and I've read this is the best way to cut squash and pumpkin off the vine, is to leave a significant amount of stem attached to the squash, and it helps it live longer and not rot as quickly. And this pumpkin is still in great shape, so there must be something to it. Well, I have this cutting board I took out of storage. I cleaned the top with Simple Green. I have some of my best and favorite kitchen knives, which I've sharpened, and let's get started. I don't even know how to start or where, but I'm going to give it my best shot. My kitchen isn't real big, and my counters are pretty crowded as a result of that, so I'm just moving stuff around the best I can to make this happen. So I think what I'm going to do is cut this top off first. Let's see how that goes. I wish I had a saw. Well, it's coming off slowly. I'm going to turn off the camera and I'll be back in a moment when I've got all the way around. Well, I made a semi-round cut here. I'm not the greatest at cutting these. I've never cut pumpkins for jack-o'-lanterns, and there's a reason for that. So what I'm doing right now is just going around the original cut I made, and make sure it goes all the way through, because I want to just be able to tug this off, the lid off. I think this is going to be the hardest cut, and then the rest will be probably hard too, but not as hard as this one. Well, here's looking at you, kid. Let's see what happens. Goodness. Oh. There it is. Actually, it smells really good, like a pumpkin. I wasn't sure what I was going to find, but we're getting there. I've got 2 bowls here. One I'm going to be harvesting the seeds because I want to roast them. And the other one I'll be harvesting the pulp, which will go into the compost. Or not really the pulp, but that stuff that stringy stuff. I guess it's part of the pulp. So far so good. That's what was in the top. So in order to make this a little bit easier, I think I'm going to slice it in half like this. It's going to be another struggle, but I've got to slice the whole thing up at some point anyway. And instead of reaching in there, I think it might just be easier to cut it in half. Oh boy. I should have brought an axe. All right, done. The top part was a little harder to cut. I think it was a little thicker, but there we go. That's like something out of some sort of horror movie. Well, I'm going to go ahead now and start pulling out those seeds and pulling out this stringy stuff, and we'll see what we've got left. Well, here's what they look like after the seeds were taken out. That stringy stuff is still in there. I have a bowl full of seeds. I should have probably put these in a colander because I'm going to have to rinse them. I have to decide how I'm going to handle these. I'd like to roast them with salt and things like that. I don't know how long they're going to last, if I should leave them in the fridge. I don't know. I'm going to have to research that. I've been thinking about getting one of those little machines that sucks all the oxygen out of mason jars. The more I go on about food preservation, the more I see that I need to maybe invest in more equipment. If I had one of those, then I could definitely make these now, and then I know they'd be fresh for a while. Right now, because I don't, I'm just not sure. So anyway, I'm going to rinse these, set them aside, and do a little bit of research. Now it's time for this thankless task of getting all this this stringy stuff out. Actually, it's kind of coming out. I have never baked a pumpkin or dealt with a pumpkin this big. In the past, I have grown something called sugar pumpkins, which are specifically made for baking and pies, and they are a lot smaller. So I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but I'm sure it'll be fine. It certainly has a nice pumpkin smell, which is a great start. If you are, get this out of the way, if you are baking with pumpkin, one thing I have noticed is that with raw, raw pumpkin, as opposed to what you get in the can, is sometimes it can be kind of thick. The last batch that I made some time ago was very thick, and when I put it in the pumpkin bread or whatever I was making, I did need to add some water to the batter because maybe the stuff they have in the cans is a little more fluid. I don't know what. It came out fine, but just so you know. Well, I'm going to be working on this for a while, and I'll be back in a little bit. Well, operating on the principle of good enough is good enough. I took out what I could, scraped it out, rinsed them out, and now I'm going to cut them up and get them ready for the crock pot. I had quite a bit of pulp here, and I was able to harvest a few more seeds, so this is going to go in the compost. And the seeds, as I say, I'm going to research what to do with them. Well, here's half the pumpkin inside of the other half of the pumpkin. So what I think I'm going to do is grab the crock pot and throw these in here, the cut up sides, just to make a little more room here. Well, as you can see, my biggest crock pot is completely full just with that one half of the pumpkin. So I think I'm going to put a cup of water in this and turn it on high and cook it down. And then when it's done, I'm going to do the other half of the pumpkin. I'm going to put a cup of water in here. Let's see if that's enough. I think maybe 2 cups of water. Well, it's been about 3 hours and the pumpkin is really soft. A lot of water has accumulated in there. I don't know if you can see it, but I think when I do the second round, I'm just going to put 1 cup of water in like I thought, because the pumpkin gives off so much water. So I'm going to let this cool for a few minutes and take it out, then put in the other half of the pumpkin. Here it is out of the crock pot and in a big bowl. This is half the pumpkin. Gonna let it cool here for a little while. Well, I have that second round of the other half of the pumpkin in the crock pot right now. So these are cooling down. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these chunks that are nice and soft, and I see that I can just peel this outside skin off like that. And that's what I'm going to do with all of them. Just going to peel this off. It comes off real easy. I have a lot of compost, the other pieces of the pumpkin, the raw pieces, and I haven't been able to take them outside because it's been pouring rain. So as the day goes on, I have more and more pumpkin in here that needs to go out, and I guess it's not going anywhere for a couple days. So I'm going to continue doing this, and when the rest of it's done, I will start mashing it up and preparing it for storage. Well, here we are. This is what that great old pumpkin yielded. A whole lot of pumpkin. This was an all-day project, but it was not my all-day project. It was the crock pot's all-day project. Did 2 rounds with the biggest crock pot I have, and I just love using the crock pot for things like this because I don't have to babysit it. So I'm going to be freezing this, but before I freeze it, I'm going to mash it. I believe I've taken off all of the skin, but from time to time I might see a piece that I'll pull off. There was some liquid when I took these out of the crock pot and put them in the bowl. There was some residual liquid in the bowl, so I'm just going to leave that liquid in here and add it to the mash because, as I mentioned earlier, this can be, a fresh pumpkin can be very, very dry. So I'm not going to do overkill with this. I just want to make it a little easier to pack into the freezer containers I have. And by doing this, I'm going to break up some of the chunks. Smells really good. I was a little concerned because this was sort of more a Halloween type pumpkin, and if it would, even have any flavor or smell. And indeed it does. It smells just like a pumpkin. I'm really excited about this. A few weeks ago, I purchased this amazing freezer book, which has every single fresh produce available, literally from A to Z. the best way to prepare it for freezing, how to freeze it, best way to store it, as well as recipes that use the either use the frozen produce, or the recipe can be frozen that defrost well. So it's been very great. And one of the things she suggested was to have these containers for freezing. So I got on Amazon, I got two different types. They're called freezer blocks. This is the 1 cup size, and then I have a 2 cup size here. Hold on a sec. Like this, and they come with lids, so you put your items in there, you close them, and then because they're silicone, once it's frozen you can just pop it out, and they store in these cubes. So I've got the 2 cup size and the 1 cup size, and I'm going to be using both of them just for the sake of speed. For a lot of pumpkin breads and pumpkin items, they usually want a can of a pumpkin puree, and that is usually 15 ounces for some reason, and a 2 cups is 16 ounces. So I'm going to do some of these 2 cuppers, so it's ready to go, and the 1 cuppers too, because I could put 2 of them together. In addition to using this for pumpkin bread, I make these types of cookies. They're oatmeal cookies, and I make them and put all sorts of stuff in them, like coconut and nuts, and they've become sort of my de facto granola bars. If you've watched my pantry refilling videos, I used to always buy granola bars and put them in my little stash, but now I haven't done that for a long time because I have these oatmeal cookies. So I can use some of this pumpkin in that too. I think it'll be good. So here they are, ready for the freezer. I still have quite a bit in the bowl there that I'll put in the refrigerator, but this was just the most amazing gift to have this pumpkin puree that I can just use for months to come for all sorts of things. As I say, it was an all-day project, but not my all-day project. Basically just cutting up and mashing the puree. The crock pot did all the work. Tomorrow, when these are frozen, because it's silicone, I'm just going to pop them out, put them in a container and a bag, and finish up the rest. So that's how I tamed the Great Pumpkin. Pumpkins are so versatile. They're so full of nutrients, and they're relatively inexpensive. This one, somebody gave me after Halloween, and I've noticed after Halloween, usually pumpkins go on major sale. This year they were not that expensive to start out with, but after Halloween they're usually really inexpensive because they're trying to move them along. So if you're interested in making your own pumpkin puree, this is how it's done, and it's just a wonderful thing to have and a wonderful thing to know how to do. So I'm going to put these in the freezer, and I thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me all day, and hoping that all your cooking and baking is going well.